Hello, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being open to this information. There's so much misinformation out there and stigma with psychedelics. And the more of us that are informed, the more of us can teach others. And so microdosing has literally transformed my life. I would have never previously actually volunteered to speak in front of people, because I used to have severe stage fright where I'd go into a panic attack and freak out. But with the microdosing, it's not that I don't feel it. I feel my heart pounding. I feel my body wanting to quiver. My mouth is starting to get dry, but it's not overwhelming my life. I'm still able to get up here and do this. I'm still able to say yes to these kinds of things. And with microdosing, it's balance, like everything. We're everything, And some of us, a common misconception with microdosing is that it's going to make everything go away, and you're just going to have joy and peace. And we're everything. It's about balance. It's about balancing these things that are out of balance in our bodies and in our minds. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, so you know who this being is up here talking to you. So I was born in southern Humboldt in Garberville, and I had a really difficult childhood. And because of that, I struggled with severe depression, suicidal thoughts, addiction, severe anxiety. I didn't even looking at people when talking to people. Making eye contact was very scary for me. And I invited people into my life, up until my mid-20s, invited people into my life that hurt me physically, emotionally, sexually, mentally, because I thought I deserved that. There was little or no love for myself. But in my mid-20s, I was introduced to how to take psychedelics in a way to heal. And previously, I had taken psychedelics, but as a way to escape myself, because they can be used as a way to escape. But when I learned the tools to be able to go inward, I started healing. So I was in the master's program at HSU. I need to drink some water, the whole dry mouth thing. So I was in the master's program at Humboldt State University before it was Cal Poly. And I wrote my thesis on those who take mushrooms long-term, their motivations and their experiences. And during this time, all the interviews were in 2020. During this time, I learned about microdosing. And microdosing was a completely new concept to me. I was all about the big dose journeys, because that's where I had received most of the healing. And so I went into microdosing to prove everyone wrong. And I went into it as a non-believer. I thought it was the placebo. But after a month of microdosing, I didn't feel anxiety. Okay, yes, I still felt its presence, but it wasn't like it used to be. Previously, sometimes it would be hard for me to even leave my house because I thought something bad was going to happen, but that had lifted. And so then I started taking microdosing very seriously. Learning the different tools and techniques to be able to really get deep with this medicine. I have a mentor who's been working with guiding people through microdosing for over 15 years. And I was helping friends and family and seeing people get off of SSRIs, just more connection with their children, getting over postpartum. Yeah, it was amazing. And then right after graduating, I spearheaded the decriminalization movement in Arcata. And with a 4-month period, it was decriminalized with the help of the community. And on that note, after this talk, if you all think that entheogens should be decriminalized countywide, please write emails to the county supervisors. And this is how we really get these things to change. The more emails they get, the more they see from the community, yes, we want this, they're gonna do it. So after decriminalization, I was on a 1-gram mushroom journey, and I saw so clearly that I needed to open up to the community on a larger level to really share my wisdom and my knowledge. And so the next day, I built my website and I created Microdosing Humboldt. And what I do is I'm a microdosing coach. So The first session is really a foundation session. What is it that you're working on? What's your intention? And making sure you're completely clear with how to microdose. What's your protocol? And then we meet every other week. It's an 8-week program, and it's really integration. It's having that space every other week to really reflect on your experience. What is happening? What isn't happening that you hoped would happen? So that is what I do. So let's get into microdosing. I'm going to start with the history. And this is just a little bit. There's like so much history. And I encourage you to do your own research. And everything I'm saying here, definitely do your own research. You know, there's so much out there. We're all learning. We're all learning together. But, in Australia, the first people of Australia, so it's been documented that they would take very small amounts of datura in order to be able to hunt better, because it would help them see more detail and to go on long hikes. So datura is a psychoactive plant. If you take too much of it, you can die. I've never worked with datura. So moving on, so 9,000 BCE, there's been documentation of, there's cave paintings, and this was in North Africa, Algeria, yep. And so these cave paintings are of mushrooms, and there's a mushroom deity with a bee head. And so the bee is representing honey, because in ancient civilizations, they would store mushrooms and honey because they will stay good for thousands and thousands of years. And it's not documented, but I'm sure they probably microdosed. So during the invasion of the Spanish invasion, it was documented that the Aztecs and Mayans, so this was in the 1500s, the Aztecs and Mayans would take small amounts of mushrooms to treat a bunch of stuff, so like arthritis and headaches and other pains, and they would also take big doses of mushrooms. But unfortunately, during the invasion, pretty much all the documentation was destroyed, it was burned. Cortez was like one of the main invaders, and he was very cruel. He would torture and kill anyone who worked with mushrooms. But interestingly, he would microdose with peyote, him and his troops, because it helps with endurance. And thankfully, during that time, a group of shamans were able to escape to the hills with the mushroom knowledge. And they were able to keep that a secret for 450 years, up until Gordon Wasson, who was a rich US banker, sat with Maria Sabina. I need some more water. So, Maria Sabina, she was a shaman, a mushroom shaman in Oaxaca, and Gordon Wasson was the first known Westerner to actually sit in ceremony with the mushrooms, and he's the one, he wrote an article in Life magazine, I think it was Life, yes, Life magazine, referring to the mushrooms as magic mushrooms, and that's where the term magic mushrooms actually came from. And because of that, he didn't keep Maria Sabina's identity he didn't keep her identity very safe. So a bunch of Westerners swarmed to Oaxaca to sit in ceremony, and it did like destroy her village, and the villagers got very upset and blamed her. And her shop got burned down, her home got burned down, her son was murdered. She spent time in prison, and she died in poverty. And Gordon Wasson, this rich US banker, and others who got so much from her, didn't show up when she needed help. And so it's just good to recognize, how the mushrooms came into our lives, and just like really giving her gratitude for the sacrifice. Where am I going now? All right, this is fun. I want to talk about a theory, Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory. So his theory, so way back in the day, pre-human, Some apes would want to eat mushrooms out of psilocybin mushrooms out of cow dung. And the apes that liked the taste and liked the feeling, because in small amounts, it's going to help you be a better hunter because you're going to be more into detail. It's going to lift your libido, so you're going to want to procreate more. And those apes that decided to eat these mushrooms and pass it on from generation to generation, it's likely that that's what grew our brains during the evolution. So the parts of the brain that it's really affecting is like language and communication and being able to think outside the box. And this medicine is creating neurons and connecting neurons, and the little dendrites, like at the end of the neurons that look like trees, they grow. So our brain grew. So in a 2 million period of time, the brain doubled. So it's kind of fun to think that we became to be, human from mushrooms. And what's really exciting to think about is so many of us are starting to want to work with these medicines and what it is doing in our brains to heal our brains. And collectively, the more and more of us who start healing with these medicines will be able to get out of this place that we've been in for so long of destruction, domination, separation, othering, fear. The more of us that are on board with these medicines will be able to see through that illusion. Like the things that they give us, like the media, we won't have any interest in it. We'll be able to see through the games. And then we'll be able to, once the powers that be, the destructing dark powers, once we're doing our thing, no, we're not gonna play the game anymore. They will cease to exist. They can no longer be here. We will level up. And that's actually why I'm doing this, because I truly believe that, and it makes me really excited. It's just, the time is now for healing and healing ourselves, healing each other, healing communities, healing Earth, and just kind of getting out of this rut that we've been stuck in collectively. So, one last thing of history I wanted to talk about before getting into microdosing is ergot. So ergot is a psychedelic fungus that grows on wheat and rye that's been spoiled, and the Greeks and Romans. The Greeks and Romans would take ergot to get high. And this is actually where Albert Hofmann was able to synthesize LSD. So he did this in 1938 unknowingly, and then in 1943, he discovered what he had created with LSD. And he lived to be 102. So, I don't know if he, microdosed until the end, but I like to think so. And so, also Hofmann from Gordon Wasson, the mushrooms he brought back from Mexico, he synthesized the psilocybin and psilocin. So all the studies that we're seeing just with psilocybin, it's the synthesized form that Albert Hofmann had created. And also, one last thing, so Aldous Huxley. So Aldous Huxley, so on his deathbed in 1963, he had a big dose of LSD injected in him by his wife to help him pass on. So he'd been suffering for 2 months with cancer. And so he got injected 100 micrograms. And so a microdose of LSD is 5 to 10 micrograms. So he got injected 100 micrograms twice. And he was able to pass with peace. The medicine helped him let go and just surrender into the beyond. And the doctors and nurses said that it was the most peaceful death that they had ever witnessed. These medicines are really so good for acceptance, for letting go, for releasing, surrendering, and also just feeling the interconnection that this isn't it. There is much more than us going on here, and All right, so what is a microdose? So a microdose is subperceptual. You're not feeling anything physically, and it's very, very subtle. So with mushrooms, with psilocybin mushrooms, a microdose is 100 milligrams for most people. So it could be 0.05, so 50 milligrams for someone who's really sensitive, up to 0.25, 250 milligrams. And I have like a little mushroom I was going to pass around so everyone could take a look at this little psilocybin mushroom. And if it goes missing, you'll be very disappointed because it's been out for a while, so all the psilocybin has degraded. So like remember in South Park, if any of you watch South Park, like Mr. Mackey like passed around some marijuana for the kids, and then the marijuana like it was missing, and he's like, oh, where's the marijuana? Anyways, I like South Park. So with, as I said previously, with LSD, the microdose is 5 to 10 micrograms. So there's no LSD in this because it's not decriminalized. But I'm going to pass this around because if you want to make your own LSD microdoses, you're going to need this. So you're going to want to fill it with distilled water. And the reason you want distilled water is because like tap water and mineral water will just like degrade the LSD. So you want distilled. And I actually don't know where I was going with that. That is absolutely okay. So I'm going to talk about the differences of, something else I wanted to say, but it's not on the notes and it's not here right now, so that's okay. So the differences between psilocybin mushroom microdosing and LSD microdosing, there's some subtle differences. So with mushrooms, it could make you a little sleepy for some people. So some people like to take it more in the late afternoon, in the evenings to really help with relaxation. Whereas LSD, on the other hand, is going to give you a lot of energy. It's really good for motivation. It's really good for getting those projects done. It's very stimulating. So if you do your LSD microdose, you don't want to do it any later than noon. Or it can keep you up at night. And some other differences is LSD is it makes you want to be more social. And it helps with social anxiety. It also helps, like if you drink because of social anxiety, it'll help you just not want to drink. With mushrooms, it's very introspective, so sometimes you might not want to be social. You might just want to go outside and chill. And so those are the main differences. So with mescaline, mescaline can be found in, this is a San Pedro cactus. It can be found in a Peruvian torch and in, peyote. So mescaline is one of the more milder psychedelics, so you need a lot more of it. And I haven't actually prepared it myself, so I can't tell you how to. But when I've received it, it's been already prepared. There's just a little bit in the cactus that actually is the mescaline, and it's powdered. So about a 0.5 gram to a gram can be your microdose, and you just have to play around with it. And from batch to batch, it's going to be different. It's just like constant exploration. And with mescaline, it's going to make you very philosophical, very introspective. You're not going to really want to do your day-to-day thing, like the psilocybin mushrooms and the LSD. Like you can go like with your day-to-day thing and like do the projects, talk to the people. With mescaline, you want to like sit outside or have in-depth conversations. So that's just something to be aware of. Also with both LSD and mescaline, it lasts a while, and they're both very activating. So with the mescaline as well, you want to do it no later than noon, and it lasts for a good 10 hours, whereas psilocybin, on the other hand, is more of 5 hours. And so what I'm going to talk about briefly, I actually don't know too much about, but I do want to mention it, is ayahuasca. And this is the ayahuasca vine. So ayahuasca is a brew, and so there's a DMT containing plants mixed with the ayahuasca vine. So the ayahuasca vine is a MAOI. So it's a natural antidepressant. So with this medicine, if you microdose with this medicine, you need to really be sure whoever is facilitating, whoever's giving this to you knows what they're doing, because you can actually die. So if you're on a pharmaceutical, SSRI, SNRI, or MAOI, and you mix it with ayahuasca, it could kill you or really hurt you. And there's other, pharmaceutical, like over-the-counter medicines, like such as antihistamines and cold medications. And there's a whole list of medications that could really harm you with ayahuasca. And there's foods as well. So again, there's a whole list, but like fermented foods, so like sauerkraut, pickles, dairy products. It can give you a really bad headache. It's not gonna kill you, but it's just gonna make you feel really uncomfortable. It'll give you a really bad headache, stomach ache. So this is why I haven't chosen to be trained with this medicine, because it takes a lot of responsibility in making sure your clients are responsible and don't end up harming themselves. Uh-huh.
Are there contraindications with like mushrooms and LSD with SSRIs or other pharmaceuticals?
So, yeah, I was going to get into that, but I will answer that right now. Yeah, so there is a slight chance, like for LSD and psilocybin mushrooms, there's a slight chance for serotonin syndrome if you're on an SSRI, SNRI, or MAOI, but honestly, all the research I've done, I haven't actually found concrete evidence for this, but anything is possible. What I found with, if you're on an SSRI, SNRI, MAOI, is that you might just need a higher dose in order to really get to those, subtle effects. So that's mainly what I've seen. And then if you're wanting to wean off of it, you just need to lower the dose as you're weaning. And it really is like an exploration of what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and really just going slow. Like when you are tapering down, like going slow and you will be successful. And I know, like I've worked with a lot of people that like want to taper down now, but honestly, the healing path, it takes time. So just be patient. Like we have enough time. There's nothing to rush. We actually cannot rush healing. I've tried it and it doesn't work. Oh yeah, other medications. Yes. So if you are on lithium or tramadol, it's not safe to mix with psilocybin mushrooms, and I believe LSD too. There has been some reports of people getting seizures. So I would highly recommend just not being on those medications before starting microdosing. Yeah.
Can you repeat that one more time? What medications do you not recommend being
Lithium,
Lithium.
yeah, and tramadol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is alcohol in that also?
With alcohol, you can from my clients, and I specifically work with psilocybin mushrooms, but this also goes for like LSD. I tell people do what you normally do in the beginning, because in the beginning, if you make too many changes, it's going to be hard to know like what is the microdose and what is going on. So in the very beginning, don't stop anything. I do suggest doing it separately to really just honor the medicine, and just so you can really feel for a good, as long as you can, but like at least 5 hours if you can, so you can really connect with the medicine. Because what alcohol is going to do is it usually has a numbing effect. So it's going to make the medicine it's going to be harder for the medicine to work with you. For other people though, it could make it more intense. The cool thing with microdosing is it's such a personal journey, and you've just got to try it out. But yeah, with anything, even like with, if you're smoking cannabis, doing it separately from the microdose, really just to honor like each medicine, and to really, so you can really feel what's going on. Yeah. Now I really don't know where I was. Okay, yeah, so let's get to common misconceptions. So one really common misconception is that you need to microdose every day. So if you microdose every day, you are going to grow a tolerance, and it's not going to work for you anymore. So, after a couple weeks, you're not going to really be feeling the benefits unless you go up in dosage, and that's just kind of a waste of medicine. So protocols are very important. And the cool thing with protocols is like the medicine's still creating that neuroplasticity in your brain on your off days. So you really don't need to be microdosing every day. So I'll start with my favorite protocol. My favorite protocol is the every other day protocol. And why that's my favorite is because you're getting consistent support just on a very continuous basis. So the day of your microdose, it's in your body, it's in your brain, but the day after, it's still creating that neuroplasticity in your brain. And this is an especially great protocol for those who are healing depression and anxiety and PTSD and addiction. Those of us that are healing that, having too much of off days is just going to kind of throw us off. So another popular protocol is, what is his name? Stamets, Paul Stamets. So Paul Stamets is a famous mycologist, and so 4 days in a row with a 3-day break. So for some people, that third day off is really hard. So like I said before, the first day off, it's going to be in your brain. It's often a really good day of insights. The second day off, for some people, it's still in your brain. The third day off, for most everyone, you're at baseline. So some people really love that because they like to really feel where they're at without the medicine. And other people, it just throws them off and it's a really bad day and we don't need to do that. And then another protocol, those of us who are really sensitive, James Fadiman, his protocol, and he's been studying microdosing for a long time. Yeah, and so that's every third day. So taking the medicine, having an off day, having another off day, and taking the medicine again. So if you're working with LSD or mescaline, I do recommend the Fadiman's protocol because I found you just don't need as much of it. Whereas with the psilocybin, like the every other day or the 4 days on with a 3-day break is better. So, and it really is just play around with it. And interestingly, so like I said, psilocybin, it's in your brain for 2 days. But after 24 hours, if you do a drug test, it's out of your body. Whereas with LSD and mescaline, it actually stays in your body for a few days. So that could also be why, I don't know, I haven't looked this up, but that could also be why you just don't really need it as much. Every 3 days is sufficient to get really good results. So another misconception. Oh, it's always going to be a good time. So every time you do a microdose, it's going to be a good day. You're just going to be full of joy and peace, and there's butterflies and rainbows everywhere, and that's so not true. Yes, it definitely helps to balance depression. It definitely helps to balance anxiety, PTSD, OCD, ADHD, and just generally just like lifting your well-being. But it also brings things to the surface that need to be seen because that is the process of healing. And those things, those very things that we've been pushing away, that we pretend we don't know, but we actually do kind of know it, but we keep pushing it away. Yeah, that's going to be put right in front of you. Be like, we need to look at this. But the cool thing with these medicines is it doesn't just present you with, your shadow and abandon you. It presents you and helps you have different perspectives, helps you think of it in different ways, helps you approach it in different ways, helps you feel it in different ways. So I suggest when you're having a difficult microdosing day to use tools because it can be prolonged and we don't really want that because it doesn't feel good. But one tool is journaling. And journaling is such a good way of getting our thoughts onto paper and making sense of what's going on in our heads, because it can get kind of crazy up here. And also, it's a way for us to be able to let go. Like, it's on paper, I can let go of it, I don't have to think about it anymore. So I'm going to teach you a process, and I'm going to use anger as an example. So let's say you're going through the day and you're feeling angry, you're agitated. All right. So instead of pushing it away, let's sit down and let's explore. So exploring with the journal. And the mind is going to want to find reasons and answers and check it off the list and be like, okay, I figured it out. But that's not what this is about. It's about exploring. So identifying first, when did I first start feeling this anger? Was there a trigger? Or did I just wake up like this? Did it just happen? How does it feel in my body? Is it maybe a tightness in my stomach? Maybe a tightness in my chest? A gripping feeling? So really feel it in your body. And then try to remember the first time you ever felt this anger. The cool thing with our brains is all our memories are in there, even ones that we didn't even know we had, or ones we haven't thought about in a long time. When we give it space and ask if it feels safe enough and if you're ready, it will come to the surface for you to see it. And just write it down. And the brain at this point is gonna probably wanna be like, no, this happened 25 years ago, you should be over this. No, brain, I love you, I know you love me too, but we're just exploring this memory. And even to take it deeper, you can really get to know the anger. What purpose is it serving? Is it covering something up? Is it protecting you from something? What could that be? Is it fear? Is it sadness? So it's just an exploration. And then taking it even farther, what do you need more of in your energy field to feel at balance with this anger? Because, okay, anger's taking up a big space. Okay, well, again, we're everything, but it just needs to be in balance. What do we need more of? Maybe it's peace. What does peace feel like? Try to really feel it. A time in your life when you really felt at peace. Is it forgiveness? What does that feel like? Try to think of a time, when you were forgiven or when you forgave someone else. Is it love? Think of times when you felt so loved or someone who you love so much and how that feels. So it's just an exploration. When these things come to the surface, it's for us to explore and get to know all the pieces of ourselves. Because when we push things away, it doesn't go away. It only gets bigger and it manifests into things like depression and anxiety and even diseases in our bodies. But, bringing them to us, helping ourselves come to a balance, that's what it's all about. And these medicines help with that. So another thing, if you don't like journaling, it's not everyone's cup of tea, you can do this through kind of a meditation. So sitting in a quiet place where you're not going to be disturbed for like a good 10 minutes, where you feel safe. And as long as you feel safe doing this, you don't have to do anything that doesn't feel good for you. We all heal at our own paces. It's nothing to rush. And really invite it in. Invite it in and feel it. Allow yourself to fully feel this anger. How does it feel in your body, and how does your body want to express itself right now? Because now this is an opportunity for your body to yell, to cry, to shake. And trauma is held in our cells, and if we don't give the opportunity to release this trauma, it's just going to recirculate and recirculate. So when we give ourselves the opportunity and permission for our bodies to release, this is how we heal. One of the pieces of how we heal. Also, on difficult microdosing days, getting out into nature, it's just so healing. For me, it's the beach and just sitting on the sands and just looking at the waves and watching the birds just go over the waves and smelling all the scents, hearing the crashing waves. For me, everything just feels better. And everything just makes sense and it makes me want to sing. So find that place for you. It could be in the forest. I highly suggest wherever you go, instead of just like walking and going and getting somewhere, to just chill, sit down next to a tree, feel that tree. Just notice the beauty, notice the birds singing and whatever animals might be scurrying by and the plants. And it's just about connecting with earth, connecting with yourself, allowing yourself to just be. And oftentimes on a difficult day, it'll just make everything better. Another common misconception is that when you start microdosing, you're going to feel positive effects immediately. And that's just not true. Many of the people I work with, it can take up to a month to really feel any shifts. And this is because microdosing is very subtle. And those of us who have busy lives, those of us that are in our heads a lot, we need to notice the little things. And a lot of us in the beginning don't know how to notice the little things, so we think nothing's happening. But after a month, these little tiny shifts will turn into big shifts, and then you actually can't not notice them. And so And in the beginning, like when you're not feeling anything, you're gonna wanna go up in dosage. I highly suggest not to. I suggest stay where you're at for a month. And after a month, if you really aren't feeling anything, take it up a little bit, and take it up a little bit, because a little bit really goes a long way. Another misconception is you're supposed to feel it physically. And I mean, a lot of people want that because it feels like something's happening. It's like, oh, I feel it. But that's not actually a microdose. We're not supposed to be feeling it physically, just, more internally. And if you take too high of a microdose, there's some things that happen. So anxiety can actually raise if you take a little bit too high of a microdose. And anxiety is supposed to be decreased with a proper microdose. If you're taking a little bit too high of a microdose, your body might feel a little uncomfortable, just agitated or maybe floaty or just not good. Also, yes, you want to be at the place where you're right at the edge. That's where the proper microdose is. And it takes a little bit of experimentation to see, how close to the edge can you get before you're not at a microdose anymore. I suggest the first day that you microdose, doing it on a day when you have no responsibilities. You don't have to drive anywhere, you don't have to go to work and have a big meeting. And this is just because in case it is a little bit too high, because you don't want to be behind the wheel and then all of a sudden be like, I feel funny, and then anxiety jumps in. And let's absolutely be responsible and be safe, and keeping these medicines safe and showing like the powers that be that we're responsible. And yeah. It's also good to know that microdosing can enhance things. So it can make colors like a little brighter, it can make sounds a little louder. Your emotions can really be on the surface. I'm not saying that you're just gonna start crying out of control or anything, but you're really gonna feel. And this is a really cool thing when, especially with SSRIs, and you haven't really had access to those emotions. And so that can be a really kind of new thing to get used to, of like, oh, I really feel when I'm sad. Okay, no, I really feel when I'm happy. All right, oh, I'm really feeling this love. Okay. And so with microdosing, intention is really important. So, I mean, intention with everything we do is important, but especially with microdosing. So your intention is really the direction you're going in. Why are you doing this work? Why are you showing up for this? It helps with reminding yourself. It helps with the communication with the medicine. It helps with the repatterning of your brain. And the way that you can come up with your intention, bring journaling back, is writing down all the things that you're wanting to work on. And oftentimes there is a core, a very similar thing, like in the middle of it, that's creating all these disturbances that we're wanting to work on. There might be a few cores, but picking the thing that feels the most relevant to you in this moment. If you have too many intentions, it's just gonna get confusing. And the intention, really is our focus, but also being open to our experience. So let's say your intention is to have peace of mind, so feel at peace in the chaos, and you're feeling agitated, no, don't push that away. Bring that forward. Let's investigate this agitation, because within this agitation could be the key to your peace of mind. So having your intention, but being open to your experience, and also not being limited. If you're a month in and you're like, actually, I realize my intention isn't peace of mind, it's patience. Okay, cool. Then switch your intention. Like this process is fluid. This is your healing. Like this is your journey. Like there's no restrictions. What feels good, is good. Your intuition knows the best. No one can tell you what's best for you. You know it. And with this medicine, that'll become clearer and clearer and clearer. Integration. Integration is super important. So what is integration? Integration is understanding your experience, so meaning making. but then also applying these things into your life to actually create real transformation. Yeah, and there's so many different tools for integration, and you really just have to play around with it. This, again, it's all about experimenting. What feels good for you? Journaling is a really great way to integrate, just writing down your experiences. It's just a time for you to really notice what kind of shifts are happening, what kind of realizations, how are my communications different? And also documenting it is really nice because microdosing can be like a dream sometimes. If we don't pay attention, we don't document it, we can kind of forget. And when we have something to look back to, it just makes it easier to remember. Other ways of integration, it really is just like ways to bring you back to yourself. So it could be meditation, it could be yoga, breath work, it could be dance, it could be singing, having someone to talk to have in-depth conversations. Like that's what I provide, is like a half hour or hour space to talk about your experience. 2 weeks flies by and you may have not even once really checked in with yourself of, what's happening, what's not happening, how's it going? And yeah, so I already went over who should not microdose, which was people taking tramadol, lithium, and with the ayahuasca, the SSRIs, the danger with that. Also, those who have schizophrenia, it could actually create more harm than good with schizophrenia, but if you still choose to do it, start like very, very low and let everyone know what's going on. Just so everyone can be on board. Yeah. There are some potential risks, not anything too hardcore, but you can get a headache. Some people get a headache with microdosing. That could be, for one, it's bringing you into your body, and so you're noticing, oh, I have a headache, or I need to drink more water, or it's really creating a headache. And it creates vasoconstriction, and that can create the headache. So you have to you can take something to create vasodilation. So this is why Paul Stamets puts niacin. This creates the vasodilation. Magnesium can also create it, L-theanine, and chocolate. The thing with chocolate, with psilocybin, is that it actually can enhance the effects. So if you're very sensitive, like when microdosing and you eat cacao, it can put you over the edge. And I accidentally did that to myself like a month ago. And I was sitting in my office and I'm like, the walls are moving. All right, that's uncomfortable, but I guess with any job, mine is the appropriate one. So yeah, and with chocolate, I'm not exactly certain why it causes the psilocybin to be stronger, but from what I've read, some people say that it's a slight MAIO itself, and others are like, well, it's because it causes the vasodilation, so it helps cross the blood-brain barrier and just go through your body quicker and just more intensely. Also, lemon is another one. Lemon and limes, the citric acid. That with psilocybin, it turns it into psilocin. And that's what our bodies do, turn psilocybin into psilocin, and then it metabolizes. But lemons and limes do that for us. And so it's just going to hit you a lot harder. So just to be aware of, if you're sensitive, just foods to avoid or add. Yeah. Also, as I said before, some people with the psilocybin feel sleepy. And that could be seen like as a downside. And also, that's why it's good to take for your first time on a day without responsibilities. So then you'll know, I need to do this in the evening so I don't have to like nap throughout the day. And with the LSD, as I already said, it gives you that energy, but for some people, it's like you drank way too much coffee and you want out of your skin and you can't handle it. So that's another thing to be aware of with LSD, a downside. Yeah, so psilocybin and LSD go through your 5-HT2A receptor, which is for mood and cognition, but it also goes through your 5-HT2B receptor. And this is connected with heart valves. So if you have a heart valvular disorder, if you continuously hit that 5-HT2B receptor, it could actually harm your heart. I'm not saying you can't microdose, but to take really long breaks. Yeah, and the research, I mean, this is all, there's so much we don't know. But the research also says if you microdose for long periods of time, like years, it could actually harm your heart. But we don't know yet. But just something to be aware of, paying attention to your heart, and really knowing, what feels good is good. If it doesn't feel good, honor that. Like, no matter how much you want something, if it's not feeling right, maybe it's just not at this time in your life, and that's totally okay. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Does anyone have questions? For a 17-year-old, from a business perspective and with the decriminalization, the resolution that created decriminalization, I cannot say that that's okay because it has to be 21 and over. But, looking at ancient civilizations, like, absolutely. Even like younger children would be sitting in ayahuasca ceremonies. Like, if they're needing balance in their lives, if they're like experiencing depression, like, these medicines are available for them. Yeah.
Can you speak to the differences in different varietals and strains for microdosing, or if you have any experience from?
Totally. Yeah, like, I wish I had more time to try more because there's like hundreds, if not thousands, of different psilocybin cubensis varieties. What I start my clients with is the golden teacher. And the reason I choose the golden teacher is because it's a very gentle mushroom, but it's very deep. I also work with a variety called Melmac. And Melmac is kind of similar to LSD in a bit. It really gives you that energy for most people. And it is different, it can be different for everyone. So it really isn't a one size fits all. This is just the patterns I've seen for most people. Also, those that are really needing help with sleep, like those suffering from insomnia, I found that albino or ape are two that have been really helpful for most people. And as time goes on, I hope to experiment with a lot more. Any more questions? Get you first.
What about breastfeeding? Like, what does breastfeeding and microdosing, what is that?
Yeah, so there's no science right now, and it probably won't be for a really long time, but I would never turn anyone away who's breastfeeding, and I've worked with quite a lot of people during breastfeeding. I found that it helps with the mother's connection. Instead of being on your phone, you are here, like, with your baby. And also, I've noticed, maybe I'm a little biased, but I really feel like these children are, like, beyond the milestones. Like, they're more intelligent. And, like, doctors are giving SSRIs to women who are pregnant and breastfeeding. So
What is SSRI?
I was an antidepressant. Yeah.
So we would know if we were like on the SSRI or the other.
Oh, you'd know. Yeah.
I was like, it's not in a medicine that we would take, like a Tylenol or a.
No, yeah, it's a prescription, and hopefully your doctor would tell you. Yeah. Been known for some doctors not to communicate well, but yeah.
Yeah, just to follow on that, if a woman had trouble getting pregnant and she's in her 40s, once she gets pregnant, what do you suggest not to take?
I cannot comment on that because I really don't know. I know any doctor or anything would say absolutely not. I would just suggest doing as much research just with, ancient civilizations and just like what they would do. Before getting pregnant, it'll definitely would make her want to try a lot more because it does lift the libido.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think there was someone in the back. Yeah.
Where do you get the mushrooms?
I get the mushrooms from someone here who lives in Arcata. I would love to be the one growing them. I'm just so busy. But the person who I get them from, he is doing it for healing. And it really matters every step of the way. So if someone is growing it and they're doing it for greed, they're doing it and they're scared, they're doing it and they're stressed out, or they're doing it in a house and people are just fighting, the medicine is going to absorb some of that. Not saying it's ruining the medicine, but getting it from high vibe people and high vibe situations is just going to help with the healing that much more.
What about spores?
Spores also from someone in Arcata. Yeah.
Do you work with your patients online or is it in person?
I prefer in person. That is my preference. But I do Zoom only on Fridays. One Zoom day.
And all your information, contact.
Oh yeah, so I actually wanted to, thanks, I wanted to pass stuff out. I don't know if I have enough for everyone, but my card is out there as well. So I'm at first gonna start with stickers. I just pass it along. And then I will, yeah. Is there any other questions?
If anyone asks, but like, what about using like marijuana and also
Totally, yeah. Like if you're like working with marijuana, keep doing what you're doing. Just do it separately. So like when taking the microdose, try to wait as long as you can, like up to 5 hours if you can, just to really honor that medicine and just really so there's like a clear pathway for that medicine to communicate with you. Because marijuana can really kind of dull the effects. For some people, it actually can make it stronger. The same with alcohol. It's, yeah, interesting. But definitely just trying to separate it. Yeah, yeah.
And if that's something that we're trying to, so for example, I stopped alcohol over 2 years ago, and with cannabis, it's kind of the same thing of like, I have just exploring found that I don't want cannabis to be just a replacement of alcohol, right? So finding that balance, what would you suggest being that for someone who wants to maybe leave cannabis for a phase in their lives? Like, do you do that before starting the microdosing?
I would say, like, if you want to microdose now, go for it. And if your intention is to really just not work with cannabis right now, it will help you. Yeah, because microdosing, like these medicines, you literally cannot become addicted to them, and they're actually anti-addictive. They help you just balance that, and you just won't want it anymore. And a really cool thing just on that, so when I was talking about how the microdosing heals your brain, connecting new neurons, it actually does that for your gut as well. Like, so you just, as time continues, you're just naturally going to want to eat more salads. You're not, the sweet stuff's too sweet. The salty stuff is too salty. It not only heals your brain, but heals your gut. And I mean, it's all connected. And yeah, of course.
do you have a recommendation on like where to purchase some of this medicine? Because like for example, I have a friend who just purchased some stuff online, and I was like,
Yeah, well, if you work with me, I gift it, and that stays within the resolution that decriminalized entheogens here in Arcata. So you're buying my time, and I gift the medicine. And working with me, we'll figure out your dose. So you're not just stuck with like one dose. Yeah.
Did you talk about the cost?
The cost? Yeah, for sure. So it all depends on time, the time you would like to spend with me. So it's an 8-week program, and we're meeting 5 times, although I am available to you throughout, between sessions, because the more you feel safe and supported, the deeper you can go. So if you choose to work with me for 60 minutes a session, so we'd be meeting 5 times for 60 minutes each time. That's $500. Medicine's a gift. If you would like 30 minutes a session, we'll meet 5 times, 30 minutes. That's $350. And if you only feel like you need to meet with me twice in the 8-week period, I have a $200 package. Mm-hmm.
So, in your medicine, it's only one mushroom in it, which you said it was which? Well, the mushroom?
I start with Golden Teacher, but if like you're needing more energy or if you're needing help with sleep, like I can do different mushrooms. I do actually add lion's mane as well.
That was my question. You compared them with other types of mushrooms.
Yeah, and the reason I choose lion's mane, and I get the lion's mane from someone in McKinleyville who he does a wonderful job with, what's it called? It's like condensing the lion's mane, but lion's mane extract, yes. So, but powdered lion's mane extract. So you're just getting more of just the medicinal lion's mane. And the reason I choose it is because it enhances cognition, it lowers depression, it lowers anxiety, and it's really, great to work together. And I tell all my clients to take more lion's mane because it's such a good mushroom.
Do you do
working with my clients for a while, and after getting that foundation of trust, because it's really about trust, if they're wanting to experience a larger dose, I will sit for them, yes.